Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Idea Gen Global Podcast with George Sifakis.
I'm George Sifakis. In a world overflowing with noise, there is one forum where the world's smartest voices connect, where visionaries sit at the same table as innovators, and great minds don't just talk, they act.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're staying warm. I hope that you are prepared for Snowmageddon, which is coming, especially if you're anywhere in that Washington, D.C. to New York corridor. So stay warm and get your shovels ready because we're getting a lot of snow. My next guest, as I mentioned earlier, is a good friend and a guy I admire so greatly, Senator Bill Hagerty of the great state of Tennessee. Boy, I could talk for half an hour about his accomplishments in his life. He was a former ambassador to Japan. He's a senator from the great state of Tennessee, and has been a good friend of mine and good friend of my colleague Art Laffer, the great supply side economist. So, Senator Hagerty, thanks so much for joining. I know how busy you are on a weekend, and so thanks for coming on. Senator, are you there? Well, while we're waiting to get Senator Hagerty on, Senator, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you, Steve. Can you hear me okay now?
Hi. Thank you so much for joining. We do hear you. And this is WABC in New York. I know you know my good friend John Katsimatidis, who owns this radio station.
Absolutely.
So thank you for coming on. I've got a lot to talk to you about. First of all, by the way, are you in Tennessee right now?
I am, Steve. We're getting pounded with snow. It's actually beautiful right now. I was just out in the snow, drove over to see my mother at 93 and a half years old.
Oh my God.
She's loving the beautiful snow, but I think we may have some ice coming, which will change the story significantly.
And you don't normally get a lot of snow in Tennessee, do you?
We since I was a kid, we usually have a couple of good snows every winter. The kids always have something to look forward to, and of course, we have sleds and snowmen down here too, but just not the same frequency as the folks up in the Northeast.
Yeah, we're supposed to get about 10 to 12 inches here in D.C. I don't know. Do you think that, you guys are supposed to come back on Monday and Tuesday? Are people going to be able to are your colleagues going to be able to get back to D.C.?
So the answer is no. And John Thune has already made the call that he's going to, instead of bringing us in on Monday, we're going to wait till Tuesday because many flights have already been canceled.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think that's just the reality of the situation right now. This is a serious storm that's hitting a large part of the country. So he's addressing it in the only responsible way that he can right now.
By the way, Senator, were you born in Tennessee? Where are you from originally?
Small town in Tennessee called Gallatin, Tennessee, named for that great statue in front of the Treasury Department, Albert Gallatin, but small town about 35 miles north of Nashville in Middle Tennessee.
Wow. And so you've seen huge growth, by the way. I mean, Tennessee, as you know, it's Tennessee, Texas, and Florida are the three big growth states. You're just seeing, and by the way, Tennessee, as I seem to recall, I think Arthur Laffer has told me you're a no income tax state.
Well, that's exactly right, because we had the benefit of listening to great economists like yourself and like Dr. Laffer. and going to an environment where you have a business-friendly regulatory climate, no income tax, it really has enabled us to compete like no other. And we run surpluses in our state. We have growth in our state. We've transitioned the economy from ag to manufacturing. When I was a kid, we had a small farm. We had a tobacco allotment, Steve. You remember that? We went from that cash crop to, an economy now that's dominated by manufacturing. We manufacture more automobiles here, particularly the automobiles of non-unionized companies. Mm-hmm. Tennessee has turned out to be a powerhouse. So it's taken a generation to do it, but smart policy has been the absolute critical factor for us to have the type of success we're enjoying. And by the way, being a right to work state, absolutely critical.
Huge. It's huge. No question about it. If you look at the right to work states, and by the way, unfortunately, most of our audience in New York and Connecticut and New Jersey are not right to work, and that costs the state a lot of jobs because employers oftentimes just won't locate in those places. So, Tennessee is here's the thing. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because, as I said, we have an audience that's mostly in the Northeast. And yet, Tennessee, your government spending, per person is about half of what New York spends per person. And yet you're able to balance your budget. You run a surplus. You don't have an income tax. And, New York is almost the opposite. And New York is bleeding people. They've just elected a Democratic socialist as their mayor. It just frustrates me, Senator, that you look at the models that work, like Tennessee and Texas and Florida, and then you look at the models that don't work, many of the Northeast and of course California with the highest taxes. Why is this so hard for politicians to understand?
It really is amazing that they keep doubling down on failed policies. The populations understand it. That's why they're voting with their feet. And people are moving increasingly to the three states that you just mentioned, Tennessee, Texas, Florida. They're coming here because of the economic opportunity that's presented to them, but they're also coming here because they love liberty and freedom. Those blue states, with sanctuary cities, they've created, just I don't want to use any bad language here, but they've created a very difficult situations in some of these cities that are inhospitable to safe living. They are inhospitable to businesses and enterprise. They're crime ridden. They are, just in some places, I think the criminals have just taken over and the politicians have just turned and looked the other way. And you keep asking yourself, why are they doing this? Why don't they just wake up to the policies that Tennessee, Texas, Florida have deployed, but they keep doubling down and they keep losing. And the only way they're able to address that, and it's sad to say, but Joe Biden was the poster child for this, is they basically create sanctuary cities in these blue states that are losing population, and they backfill with people that come into the country illegally. It's estimates in California, they have 5 to 7 congressional seats that they otherwise would not have, because those illegals get counted in the allocation of congressional seats and in the apportionment of electoral votes. That's what. And
incidentally, Senator, by the way, I'm talking to Senator Bill Hagerty, the great senator from the great state of Tennessee. A couple of things on this. One is that a lot of these blue states, we are all aware of what's going on in Minneapolis and the fraud that's going on. It happens in all the states, but especially in the blue states. We're seeing it in Minnesota. We're seeing it in California. We see it in New York, New Jersey. And here's my problem, Senator. The federal programs almost encourage these states to have fraud in the programs because they view the money that comes in as a quote stimulus to their economy, which just infuriates me that we're letting people steal billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money, and the local officials, as in Minnesota, do nothing about it.
It's just shocking. And a taxpayer in Tennessee steps back and says, our funding, our tax dollars are going to these states that are irresponsibly allowing this sort of activity to happen. Why? So Tim Walz can brag about his great friends, the voting bloc that he's cultivating there with Somali refugees that are coming in. And I wouldn't say all of them, of course, but there's a large factor there that they just don't want to. They won't even take a look, because they'll be accused of somehow, being a racist or what have you. We've seen some of the evidence of the threats that were leveled by some of the organizations that were going to be or should have been investigated, and the response was of Democrat politicians, let's just back off, let's keep everybody happy, even though there's tremendous fraud underway, billions of dollars of fraud, by the way.
Yes.
They were willing to do that. Again, we're subsidizing it across the nation, and it's a disgrace.
So that brings me to one of the major subjects I wanted to bring you on to talk about, Senator, which is the budget fight that is going on now. I saw President Trump the other day said we might have to have another one of these government shutdowns because, what's the state of affairs? What are you guys fighting about? Why is it so hard to come to an agreement on a budget?
Well, I think the last time this happened was they sort of backed into a rationale, and the rationale that they came up with after the fact was they wanted to highlight the runaway cost of health care and the fact that we needed greater subsidies to pay for government-run health care in America. They called it the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare. Right. It's anything but affordable, Steve. It's completely blown up in their faces. In 2014, when Obamacare was launched, a benchmark policy, a basic policy, cost $197 a month. Today, that cost is up to $711 a month. That's a 260% inflation,
wow.
More than double what private policy premiums have gone up.
And by the way, Senator, my wife and I just got our statement from our insurance company. Our premiums are going to go up, I think, 12 to 13% this year, and that's happening around the country. I thought they said they were going to make, as you just said, I don't see healthcare being more affordable. It's less affordable. It's almost like these guys lied to us. And incidentally, I was there, when we were debating Obamacare. We warned people, as most Republicans did, that this would cause an explosion of spending and debt. And that's exactly what's happened. And now we're trying to roll it back, and the Democrats continue to defend this program.
Yeah, and not a single Republican voted for it, as you said, Steve. And they're that's the hill that they chose to fight on. Look, I think we all want to see this quote Unaffordable Care Act get fixed, but it would include solutions like health savings accounts, like getting the money to the people rather to the insurance company, verifying the people that are on the program, and eliminate these $0 premium programs that have got tremendous fraud embedded in them. So those sort of common sense solutions are rejected wholesale by the Democrats. But Chuck Schumer was willing to shut the government down for 43 days last time. It did not work well for him. We now have a situation where the House has passed all 12 appropriations bills.
Yep.
When we get back to Senate, we've got 4 very important ones to move through. You think about defense. What our men and women of the military are being called upon to do around the world, we need to properly fund them. The Democrats are going to vote against that. Homeland security. After what Joe Biden did to our border and our nation's immigration policies, we need to support fully ICE so they can do their job again. We got labor, health, human services, and education. We got the final bill, transportation and housing. Those bills, the Democrats should move in favor with us. Will they do it? I don't know. But the Republicans are ready to pass this and not have another government shutdown. Chuck Schumer did the last shutdown, I think, in truth, Steve, and you've watched this for a long time. I don't think it was about any policy issue. It was about a primary in New York State by AOC. Yep. It had to do with Chuck Schumer's poor poll ratings and trying to become the fighter again, because AOC felt emboldened the last time he didn't shut the government down and basically accused him of chickening out and caving to Trump. So he had to show his political manhood, if you will, and that resulted in a 43-day shutdown and a complete embarrassment, if you will, to the Democrat Party.
Senator, when I came to Washington some 30 years ago, there were a lot of moderate centrist Democrats, the Sam Nunns of the world and, people like that. And what frustrates me about politics today in Washington is it's going to take you 60 votes, right, to pass this this budget. So it requires 60, right?
And if we have to have unanimous consent because some of the rules, it requires everybody.
So my point is that why you deal with, your colleagues all the time. I just don't see that moderate, wing of the Democratic Party any longer. It's almost like they're almost all Elizabeth Warren and AOC types. And, that is frustrating to me because it used to be we could make negotiations. We could get these things settled in a way that benefited the country. But now everything seems to be politics.
It does seem that way. And I was explaining to a group of people earlier this week, they were asking me, about the partisan heat in Washington. And I said, it really is also partly to blame on the media, because the revenue models of the media actually work best when you've got, a battle going on. And Elizabeth Warren, for example, loves to feed that. AOC loves to feed that. There are things that happen on a bipartisan basis that frankly don't get any media coverage. For example, I fixed the permitting process for semiconductor fabrication plants in America. Sure. I got my colleagues on the Democrat side to agree with me. We passed it unanimously out of the Senate. No coverage at all. I could have cured cancer if it was on a bipartisan basis, no coverage. But if I went down and started a shouting match with one of my Democrat colleagues, we'd get wall-to-wall coverage, on the nightly news. It's just the perception of the partisanship there sometimes exceeds reality.
So do you think that we're going to get how do you see this playing out? And are we going to get a government shutdown? Are we going to get a budget? How do you see it playing out?
I don't think so, because the same group that came across the aisle there, at the end of the day, we did We did stop the shutdown that Schumer started only because there were 8 Democrats that were willing to cross the aisle and come across and work with us. Rand Paul voted with the Democrats, but 8 Democrats came over and voted with Republicans to reopen the government. Those same Democrat senators are still serving in the Senate. We stay in touch with them, and I think they have tried to be the voice of reason. They've had a tremendous amount of pressure, though. I mean, you think about the voice of reason in the last Congress when the filibuster was blocked by Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. They got run out of the Senate. So it's very hard for them to stand up. You've got leaders like Jeanne Shaheen who are retiring. Each of the senators has to make their own decision, but there were enough of them there to work with us, and I suspect they'll continue to work with us. I don't know about the remainder of the Democrats, if we'll get any more of them, but my sense is it worked out so poorly for the Democrats following Schumer off the cliff on the last 43-day shutdown. There probably isn't a great appetite to do this again.
I hope you're right. So the last subject I wanted to bring up with you, Senator Hagerty, is I think you're probably aware of these statistics because they're pretty new. But first of all, as you know, we're growing at almost 5.5% right now, which is just off the charts in terms of prosperity. And then, as you know, I mean, when you have more growth in the economy, guess what happens to tax revenues? They go up. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you're aware of this because these numbers just came out just 2 days ago, but the budget deficit is falling. And even, you were one of the leaders on passing the big, beautiful bill. Guess what? The revenues are growing. And when the tax revenues are up 10% this year.
The same phenomena happened after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was passed after 2017, too. 2018 saw the same thing, an increase in tax revenues. It's not rocket science. It's what you and Dr. Laffer talk about all the time. But
that's right. It really works.
The blue chip economist, I just want to laugh, Steve. You were talking about where our economic growth actually came in this year, but you remember coming into 2025, I think the blue chip prediction was 1.8% GDP growth for 2025.
Right. Yep.
The Fed was like at 1.6%, and here we are at 5%.
Yeah. I mean, these are blind men throwing darts at a dartboard. They didn't even come close. And one last thing on the way out, you're very close to Donald Trump. I know you guys have a good friendship. I mean, the guy he's like a freak of nature, the way he works. He doesn't stop. I mean, what is your sort of impression of him so far in the second term?
I think he's done a phenomenal job. And if you think about it, he's had 4 years to really ponder and contemplate what he would do coming back. There was a lot of frustration, even before he started in his first term. The Russiagate hoax had already been unpacked on him. The difficulties of the resistance movement that were undertaken. They tried to block. They tried to block appointments, that sort of thing. And now he's had a lot more time to think about it. And if you just look at the raft of executive orders that were unpacked as soon as he got to Washington this time, you could see a very deliberate focus on coming in. And he realizes he's got 4 years, and he's going to go through, and get the hard stuff done early, and make certain that he's got time to implement it. Going forward. So it's been in the media. The media are loving it, I would think, because it's been great for their revenue, all the pearl clutching that's going on. But he's actually come in, and it took just a matter of days, if not weeks, to secure our border. Joe Biden had been saying you need the legislation, though you just needed a new president. And
but
he's got the border.
By the way, what do you
coming down? A lot of good things.
Well, last question. I just filled up my tank in Virginia, and Virginia and Tennessee are bordering states, but I paid $2.72 a gallon. What are you guys paying in Tennessee for gasoline these days?
A little bit less than that. It's about $2.38, $2.42. Here in Middle Tennessee, you get to some other areas over closer to Memphis is a little bit less than that. So.
Wow.
Our tax structure is a little bit different. The cost should be about the same. The Colonial Pipeline would be the same cost source, but really the difference gets to be taxes. You go to California, where my wife is from. Oh my gosh,
it's like $4 a gallon.
Yeah, it's all taxes.
Well, Senator, thank you so much I know how busy you are, and I know you don't get a lot of time off, so it's very nice of you to take a little time off on your one day off of the week on a Saturday and come on the show. Please come on again, and you are doing an amazing job. We just need to get 100 people in the Senate who think like you do. And we'd be very
you're doing a great job too, Steve. We all rely on you and very much appreciate your influence. I know the president does. Certainly I do, and many of my colleagues in the Senate. We read you every day and appreciate you.
Okay, well,
thanks so much for having
me. Stay warm and get your shovel ready, right? Okay. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.